We move to our next session today, session 9. In the last session, we have seen sutras 52 to 61 of the second chapter, which deals with techniques and tools to reach the stage of samadhi. One way to look at Yoga Sutras is to look at it as a book which defines a goal of samadhi, techniques to reach the goal, and obstacles on the way, some collateral benefits on the way, dealt with in the third chapter, Vibhuti-pada. So it's a 4-chapter book. First chapter defines samadhi and important stations on the way. Second chapter deals largely with tools and techniques, and the most popular part of the second chapter is the 8-fold path of Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga. The third chapter deals with extraordinary attainments or powers, mystical powers, which one can experience on the way. And the fourth chapter deals with the onset of samadhi, the experience of samadhi and the states near to it. So we saw the first chapter, introduction to samadhi, definition of samadhi, definition of some stations on the way, something like a quarter samadhi, of half samadhi, 3/4 samadhi. And then we took some essential hints on techniques and obstacles. And in this chapter, that was first chapter. In the second chapter, we see we are focusing, Patanjali is focusing on the tools and techniques, the techniques and tools rather, techniques and tools towards samadhi. And we saw in the last session, he focused upon one particular technique of Kriya Yoga. So now we look at Sutras 62 onwards. And here he talks about another technique, that the effects of these obstacles can be reduced also with dhyana or meditation. In the last chapter, not last chapter, in the last session, in Sutras 52 to 61, he talked about Kriya Yoga as one technique to overcome the obstacles. Now he's talking about the second approach, second technique of dhyana to overcome the obstacles. And this is how Patanjali is very open, very holistic, very inclusive. He is not adamant on this particular type of yoga or that particular type of yoga. Any technique that works is fine with him. Very open. He then talks about the root of the obstacles, and he says karma is the root of all these obstacles. And this opens up a wide inquiry into what is karma. There are various interpretations and understanding of this word karma. The action that we do in the outer world is the most concrete form of karma. The thoughts that we have is a subtle form. The emotions that we accumulate creates a subtle form of karma. The psychic energy blocks are yet another form of karma. And then it begins all, the whole existence begins when the principle of existence loads the laws of nature with some amount of karma as to create a initial starting condition. Similarly, when the soul comes into existence, a certain initial condition karma is taken up by the soul, and the rest then develops in the course of evolution. And this karma is both good and bad. Bad karma is more harmful, more sorrow giving, more suffering giving, more leading to more evil in this world. Good karma does good to oneself and others, but good karma also binds. So freedom, samadhi, enlightenment means we should be free from good and bad karma both. But good karma helps us overcome the bad karma. So the worst is the bad karma, then the good karma, and then freedom from both of them. So here Patanjali says, karma is the root cause of all these obstacles. And whatever karma has been accumulated is going to be experienced in this birth or other births. Some of it may have been experienced in past births, some in the future birth. So there is something like a cloud storage of karma, which is referred to as the Akashic Records or the Akashic storage of karma. So if you have had 100 births and you have 100 kg of karma, you don't have to bring all of it together in one birth. You can pick and choose certain parts, leave it out or address in this life and others in other lives. So all that karma and whatever we have brought for this life, if you are able to empty it, then certain quantum from the Akashic karma comes in. That is the understanding, traditional understanding in tradition. So karma, he says, is the root of all these experiences in the present or other births, past or future. That does not mean there is no free will. It also does not mean that life is only for karmic accounting balance. It means karma is one of the important elements that shapes our life. Apart from karma, there is something called free will. Free will also shapes our life. And the karma that we see today is much of it actually is the outcome of free will of the past. So there are three parts: karma, free will, and the journey of ourselves. So in this life, we come not only to settle old karmas, but also to experience certain new things, which is what we call the journey of the self, why the self has come into this world. So if we look at causes from ourselves inside out related to events of life, and the other cause of course is outside in, laws of nature, free will of others and so on. But if we look at inside out, there are three elements: karma, journey of the self, and free will. And the outcomes of these three are experienced in this life or the other life. So long as this root, meaning the karma, exists, the storage, the stock of karma exists, it affects our experience in terms of birth, lifespan, and life experiences. The type of birth that you get, where, in which family, what experiences are waiting for you, lifespan, health and sickness, and experiences, pleasant or unpleasant, fame giving or shame giving, they are determined to a large extent by karma. That does not mean that is the only thing. As I said, if you look at why any event happens, you have 7 causes: karma, free will, journey of the self of ourselves, karma, free will, journey of the self of others, laws of nature, grace, accidents, the journey of the universe, and grace of higher beings. All this put together create any event. Some of them might create an event, Some of them might be active but inactive, but the exhaustive list of causes is this in a generic essential sense. So I have put this up in my heat model. In an essential philosophical sense, how can we understand why any event happens? A comprehensive list of causal categories of events. And the psychic events are one of the types of events. So experiences happen in a large proportion because of karma, and they can be delightful or painful, virtuous or sinful, fame giving or shame giving. That he does not write, but understood. Man of discrimination, meaning man of wisdom. Of course, man means human beings, men and women both. Human beings of wisdom see suffering in all experience, even in good experiences, because they are also ultimately binding. And unless we are free from good also as much as from bad, we cannot go into samadhi, enlightenment. Since everything is temporal and changing, leading to strife and misery, owing to ceaseless dynamism in the gunas that are immanent in all experiences. All experiences have these three gunas: tamas, rajas, and sattva. Gunas means qualities. So tamas refers to the quality of inertia, indolence, indulgence, and sloth. Rajas refers to all these pleasure pain movements, and sattva refers to the movements of knowledge, of truth, of delight. But all these three, right, are ultimately chains. So events that normally we experience are soaked or informed by these three gunas are eminent. These qualities are eminent. And in all experiences in which these qualities are eminent are not the experiences of freedom. Experiences of freedom are the experiences of pure awareness, bliss, which are called gunatit, beyond the gunas, beyond these qualities. So he talks about a technique of dhyana to overcome obstacles, and then goes into karma being one of the obstacles. And bad karma being the most difficult obstacle, good karma a lighter obstacle, helping us to overcome the more difficult bad karma obstacle. But good karma itself at one stage is an obstacle. And he talks about how, because of the karma which is stored up because of past actions and past lives, some suffering is fated which has not yet come. It is in future, and we can avoid it or minimize it to the extent possible if we have the knowledge and we work towards it. So he says sorrow yet to come has to be avoided. And then he says the separation of the seer and the seen is the cause of the sorrow yet to come. And the oneness of the seer and the seen can prevent the sorrow yet to come. So he talks about the existence of the psychological self. That till the psychological self exists, and I see myself as I versus the world, I versus the nature. The seen and the seer are two different things, and the seer is the psychological self. He is not the pure observer of Sankhya. So he is talking here of the seer who is the psychological self. And till we remain in this ordinary psychological self looking at the world or objects in the internal world or the external world, sorrow cannot be avoided. And so if we overcome this psychological self and get into a pure observer status or no observer status or oneness with existence status, we can avoid sorrow which is yet to come, but fated to come unless we address this problem. So there are two types of sorrows yet to come: that which is fated to come, and that will naturally emerge because of this very nature of our state of existence. Then he talks about the object and the seer. And he says, object of experience manifests itself. And there is a tendency of light, the tendency in the object that it manifests itself with its own light. Light does not mean literally the light, but it is the capability. It's not the light of the bulb. It is the capability, that inner light, that subtle inner light, which gives the object capability to manifest itself. So that eminent capability of an object to manifest itself, meaning we are talking about the capability of the essence of the object to manifest itself. So the object, the essence of the object has capability to manifest the object. So object of experience manifests itself, and this can refer to external objects or internal objects. Then it comes to elementals, the 5 elementals, and these you can have different sets of elementals defined. You can go into 5 elementals of earth, fire, water, space, and wind, or you can go into 5 elementals of the psychological world, or 5 elementals of the thought world. The ancient Hindu psychology has many sets of elementals defined. Generic elementals are earth, water, fire, wind, and space. Then you have set of epistemological thought elementals, emotional elementals, energy elementals, and then complete set of psychological elementals. And here he says by elementals refers to the elementals that constitute all objects in this world. And these are metaphorical elementals. These are not concrete, literal elementals. It's a way of conceptualization. Can it come out to be literally true? It can be. But for the moment, we keep it safe by seeing it as conceptual elementals. Model making elementals. It says elementals that make up the objects have characteristic of activity, inertia, and continuation. Inside, that is outside of us, the objects. So objects manifest with its own light. The essence of the object has the capacity for manifestation, which is called its own light, the capacity of manifestation. And using that, the object manifests itself. Or rather, as a result of it, the object comes into manifestation. Elementals have a characteristic of activity, inertia, and continuation. Elementals which constitute all objects: earth, fire, wind, water, space. Inside of us, senses enable us to engage with the object. Senses are the epistemological core entities which enable us to engage with any object, inside or outside. And the two together, the manifesting capability of the object and the capability of the senses, it enables experience inside and release outside of any action or any emotion. So inner experience and its outer manifestation both are enabled by the characteristics of the object and the characteristic of senses inside. So here it goes into an epistemology of experience. Object of experience can have qualities. It can have qualities of form, formlessness. It can have generic qualities or specific qualities. So he goes into the epistemological element of quality in objects. The seer, even if pure, while he is identified with the state of being. The seer, even if pure, while he sees, is identified with the state of being. So the seer, no matter how ethically pure he may be, how even epistemologically pure he may be, but so long as he is in the state of the psychological subject looking at the object, the psychological subject exists as a part of a state, and whatever be that state, any ordinary psychological state in which the psychological self exists. psychological subject exists apart from the object. So long as it continues, no matter how pure the person is, he is still captive and held back by the state where he is identified with. The psychological self always will be identified in some way or the other with the state into which it exists. So unless the psychological self is completely dissolved, overcome, and we get into the state of Purusha, psychic being, or the central being, or oceanic oneness with existence, the identification will always happen. And this identification is the overwhelming of the Purusha by the Prakriti. And this is an obstacle to Samadhi. Let us just go over it once. I think I went a little fast. If you have any questions, just send me on my email. Let us look at psychoanalytically if there's something I could have said and missed. Yeah, he brings in this element of dhyana. This can be, all techniques of spirituality can be used for relief and healing in psychotherapy, including dhyana. And we can be trying to heal any phenomena, be it the split or the Oedipus, or we will be dealing with any affect, be it guilt, anger, pain, shame. These techniques can definitely be used. Now, karma, how do we understand it in psychoanalytic terms? In psychoanalysis, when we are stuck with the concept of constitution, that two people have the same experience, one develops a trauma, second doesn't, and then we say it's the constitution. Constitution is just a good word to say I don't know. We are substituting one unknown by another. Why is the constitution what it is? Scientific answer is I don't know. Belief answer can be karma. So karma can be not only a belief system for closure, but it can also be a subjective truth. And it can be offered to the client, leaving it to him to accept or not accept. But there is a theory of closure involving belief. And if we analyze from a karmic point of view, we can also come to the core elementals which are in trouble at the root of the personality. So the concept of karma can be used for psychoanalysis also. For example, let us say the split is a problem. And we go to the epistemology of the split. And at the root, we will be left with sensitivity and negativity. If the sensitivity is low, high amount of affect will never be generated. And if the negativity is low and the positivity is high, even if the affect is generated, it will be positive, not negative. So chronic difficulties arise at the root because of these two elementals, high sensitivity and high negativity. And the third is inability to tolerate affect or regulate affect. So these three being the elemental causes, we can focus psychoanalytic healing on those causes. And the karma principle will say, because of the karma, these three are what they are. And the karmic law only has to fix this initial condition and the rest follows by the laws of nature. You just make these three or a few other elementals take particular values to constitute the initial condition, and the subjectivity is rooted, and then it develops into a tree. And this often happens that till the karma is not satisfied, the healing does not happen. And that often happens, the same thing we keep repeating and someday it takes effect. Why did it take effect on that particular day? Why not before? Many explanations can be given, state-based explanations, function-based explanation. One explanation would be karma. It is one possible meta-psychology. Now this is a stoic thing. In psychoanalysis, difficult to accept because psychoanalysis we are pleasure maximizing, pain minimizing creatures. Stoicism is not our natural state. But in certain psychotherapy approaches which are based upon Stoicism, this is more applicable. So this is more applicable for possibly REBT and CBT rather than for psychoanalysis. Prevention of trauma, prevention of sorrow, something we don't focus upon in psychoanalysis. We deal with past trauma, we don't care about the future trauma. So the preventive aspect has yet to be brought in. How to enhance the ego strength, how to enhance the ego capacity, how to enhance positivity, how to reduce negativity, how to manage sensitivity. And then these three are epistemological statements, and psychoanalysis is yet to bring in epistemology. I have done this in the heat model of the mind, trying to bring together psychoanalysis and epistemology. And I would prefer epistemology as put forward by Immanuel Kant with some modifications that I have done. And this is where psychoanalysis falls short. It does not go into the state of spiritual observer of Sankhya or the psychic. Yet far off for psychoanalysis to accept, appreciate, or deploy for relief, healing, or to make more complete its conceptual base or metapsychology. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, write to me at hvindia@gmail.com.